Hello everyone and welcome to This Day. It is Saturday, February 3rd, and I'm your host, Bobby Higgins. And we have a great show coming your way. Coming up, we have Dr. John Hovannessian with Harvard Eye Associates. He'll be here, and also we have an update with Thrive in the Community. And this brings us now to our Stay Informed. Do you know what goes in the trash? To stop second guessing what to do, go to lagunawoodsvillage.com and click on News and then What's Up in the Village. Once there, you'll be able to find the printouts, which will tell you exactly what goes where. Recyclables like paper, glass, and cans go in the blue bin. Organics like fruit, bones, and vegetables go in the green bin. And landfill goes in the black bin. Plus, there's a whole list of everyday items that require special disposal, such as medicine, batteries, needles, and garden chemicals. Print out your cheat sheet today and make sure you are disposing of your trash properly. And now let's take a look outside at the weather. We're getting a little bit of a reprieve today. No rain today, but it is coming, and we'll have some sun peeking through the clouds through the day today. But there's another storm expected, and it's going to bring some heavy rains on Sunday into Monday. On Monday, the rain really hits hard, and it'll be pouring down, so stay dry and be careful out there. And now taking a look at the sunrise and sunset, another beautiful shot from here in the village. This one is being brought to you by Ben Givens. We just had some amazing sunsets this past week, so this one is a great shot as well. Thank you for that. A sunrise 6:46 a.m. this morning, and your sunset at 5:24 p.m. tonight. So stay with us, because up next we have Harvard Eye Associates. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Harvard Eye Associates. We're focused on your eye care at all three of our Orange County locations.
Our new location in Laguna Hills, Orange, and San Clemente.
Each facility features the latest in advanced technology and diagnostic equipment.
And a trusted collection of doctors that care about your vision and your quality of life.
We deliver what matters to you and your family.
Harvard Eye Associates, the future of vision today.
We want to talk about eye health and COVID. They don't seem like they go together, but the macular degeneration can actually happen with COVID and can actually increase those things. We're here with Dr. John Hovannessian from Harvard Eye and want to talk about that. Tell us a little bit about, let's jump into this. How did you first find out about this?
Well, thanks, Michael. You know, there's been, I guess if there's one way to describe this, all of us could say that COVID is the leading cause of statistics.
Absolutely.
Right. I mean, there's been just so much discussion about what causes it and what it causes and what makes it worse and what makes it not worse. Many of us have been, you know, become sick from COVID, and most of us are sick of COVID and of talking about it. But
there's those long-term health effects that we're still discovering now, and you're here to talk about that macular degeneration.
That's right. And so, you know, this is actually worth talking about because it is, you know, it is relevant to a lot of our viewers who have macular degeneration or have a loved one with macular degeneration. Mm-hmm. This is a condition that macular degeneration that seems to cause or be associated with an increased risk of severe symptoms and severe outcomes from COVID. And so this was actually derived from a study done during the peak of the pandemic in 2020, where they observed patients who did and didn't have severe outcomes from COVID, including those who died. And then ask the question, what's associated with it? Mm-hmm. Well, the first thing we know that's associated with poor outcomes is age in COVID, right? People who are older don't do as well. And of course, age-related macular degeneration is a disease related to age. So it's not just, in this study has shown us, not just the relationship of old age linking the two. There are other factors as well.
Right, there's an exacerbation that goes along with all this when COVID comes along. Do we know why COVID kind of can exacerbate this macular degeneration?
So it appears from the study, and like any well done study, it answers certain questions but raises other questions that require further study. And that's one of the things that really frustrates people when they hear little snippets of science is, well, does it mean this and does it mean that? Well, the answer is a lot of times we don't know until we have further study, and that is the case here. But what seems to link the two is a background process of inflammation that's happening in the body of people who happen to have macular degeneration when they catch COVID. So inflammation is a really complicated process, many processes really inside the body. We know about blood cells that are part of the cause. There's sort of an independent system called the complement pathway, C-O-M-P-L-E-M-E-N-T, complement pathway, which is a series of proteins in the blood that is meant to be a rapid way for the body to respond to infecting agents. And we know that when complement is activated, that is a risk factor for severe macular degeneration. In fact, those of us who keep up with the news in macular degeneration, which is an awful lot of folks who live here in the Village, know that there have been some new drugs in the past past 12 months that have been approved for macular degeneration that work by inhibiting the complement pathway. And so this news about complement associating COVID and macular degeneration is particularly relevant in our new understanding of this disease, macular degeneration.
So the very thing that your body's doing to try to fight off COVID is actually can damage the eyes in a sense, right?
Yeah,
so
or
we have to figure out a way to counterbalance that without shutting down your immune system.
Yeah, it's another way, that's exactly right. And another way to think of it is those who have an activated complement system are going to have a likelihood of macular degeneration as well as a likelihood separately of severe COVID symptoms. And it's a meaningful thing. The risk of death from COVID was 3 times higher among people with macular degeneration in this study. And 1 in 5 people who had macular degeneration had to go on a ventilator when they were, caught COVID among those thousands of patients who were studied. So probably the next question a lot of the viewers here would have is those who know the difference between wet and dry forms of macular degeneration. There's 2 broad categories of this disease. Does it matter which one I have? Unfortunately, this study doesn't answer that question because at the time they were just looking to collect data and they didn't have specifics on what form of wet versus dry patients had. But we know both forms are associated with complement, so we would assume that there may be some risk for both.
Now, anecdotally, have you seen any of patients of yours come into the office and from COVID, maybe their macular degeneration got worse or it stayed the same, or what might have happened?
So we don't think that COVID causes the macular degeneration to get worse. COVID, it's a great question, caused some eye problems. Typically they're on the outside surface of the eye. But we think that there's just an association between these 2 diseases. So we have seen patients, of course, with both macular degeneration and who've been through COVID. We try not to have patients with active COVID in the office. We warn folks not to come in because there are very few conditions so urgent in the eye that they would demand that they come in within that short infectious period. So we want to protect everybody else by not having active disease patients in the office. But we've certainly seen the combination of these, and we've had, sadly, patients of ours succumb to COVID who had, macular degeneration.
So what can people take, what steps can people take to protect themselves against, having any kind of inflammation that can affect the eye and those kinds of things?
Yeah, so, a number of things, and so this underscores some of the precautions that we've been taught since the beginning of the pandemic about hand washing, wearing masks if you're concerned that you're going to be around people who are ill. But I think that probably it also underscores the importance of vaccines for people who may have macular degeneration. If I have a family member, a loved one who has mac degen, and they're on the fence about receiving a vaccine because the vaccines keep coming out. We all get a little bit sick when we take one for a day or so, and so we don't love taking the vaccines. Probably this would prompt me to tell my family member, go ahead and get that vaccine if you're on the fence.
Right. I think a lot of people feel like, well, COVID's kind of gone. People aren't, I don't need a COVID shot anymore. If I get it, I'll be fine. But the complications that can arise from eyes or any other, symptom, long COVID, those things are still out there and they're still very real.
Yeah, we have better drugs and a better understanding of how to treat COVID, so it's a lot less mortality occurs now and even morbidity. But knowing that you're at an enhanced risk of problems, why tempt fate when you have a solution that is likely to reduce the risk of severe infection?
Right.
It may not entirely prevent infection. Probably that's worth taking if you or somebody you live with has macular degeneration.
Is there a treatment plan if I get COVID and I know I have an issue with macular degeneration, excuse me, what steps should I take if I'm in the middle of it?
Great question. So the treatment for the macular degeneration is not likely to be altered by the presence of COVID. We're not likely to change anything in the macular degeneration treatment. As you know, the dry form of the disease is a very slowly progressive form, and we do have now treatments for it. And the wet form of the disease, patients usually most all patients are under treatment where we put medicines inside the eye on a schedule. It's as often as once a month, and sometimes it's every 3 or 4 months. That schedule would probably not change by the presence of COVID. So really not much in the macular degeneration picture will change from having COVID. Just to know that if you've got macular degeneration, think about yourself as particularly vulnerable to COVID infection.
Do we know what the warning signs might be if I get COVID or something's going on? Is there some sort of trigger? Oh my goodness, this is affecting my eyes or something like that. Is there any way to detect that if you're just sitting at home and you have COVID and something goes haywire?
Well, so the early symptoms of COVID, typically an upper respiratory infection, sore
Right.
throat, and those kinds of things, would still be the warning signs. And what this might prompt you to do is to seek help from a doctor earlier. So we have medications like Paxlovid and others that are known to reduce the morbidity of COVID.
Right.
And so you might just get to the doctor a little
Get
faster.
on top of that early, and then that we're going to prevent any further damage in their eyes or any other part. If we get on top of it, get that inflammation down, get the disease under control.
Yeah, so that we don't, that's right. The main issue is the risk of COVID causing a problem. The COVID won't attack the eye in the macular degeneration patient, but it may be more severe among patients who have macular degeneration. So,
Did the study tell us why some patients it affects them more and some it doesn't? Do we have any understanding of that?
We do, and we think that the common link is this inflammatory underpinning. That, the people who have an activated complement system are more likely to have both
really
issues.
At the core of it.
Yeah, and that seems to be separate from just age and separate from other factors like smoking and things that are known to associate with a worse outcome of both macular degeneration and COVID. The complement system's activation seems to be the underlying thing. So, thankfully, we have great treatments for COVID, and yet we don't want to tempt fate.
Right.
And so
let's be safe.
That's right. We get in the car and we drive carefully, but we put on the seatbelt. And so, take precautions. If you have macular degeneration, be particularly careful not to get, and if you do get, treat aggressively the COVID infection that you may have.
All right, you heard it here, folks. Buckle up. Dr. John Hovnessian from Harvard Eye, thank you so much for joining us
today. Nice
to
see you, Michael.
Nice to see you. We'll be right back. You're watching This Day.
Adapt to It, we strive to make the everyday tasks easier by providing our customers with the tools they need to be successful. We carefully explain the use and care of all of our equipment. Adapt to It has been in Laguna Woods for over 20 years, and we know that nothing in life stays constant. So we can help you adapt to all the changes in your life. Adapt to It sells and rents items and always delivers with a smile. Come in today to experience what we mean when we say, when you can't change it, adapt to it.
We are wanting you to thrive in 2024, and to do that, we're going to be talking to the folks from Thrive. Beth Perrick, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Tell us a little bit about the mission and the whole vision of Thrive.
So what Thrive does is we are a group in the community, and we look toward bringing happiness, love, joy, and kindness to people in the community. Our vision is inspiring quality living in every chapter of our lives, and that's important. This chapter is different. And then our mission is to capture and share the moments of life in the village so you can see how others are thriving, and wait a minute, I could do that too. We celebrate how people do well mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. What do you do in the village that makes you happy? You know, how do you like to engage with people? Are you into athletics? Are you into lifelong learning and the things that do make us thrive?
For folks who've like maybe watched Village Television, in between shows we have some slides, announcements kind of thing, but Thrive announcements kind of come up too, and they're not really announcements so much as they're like inspirational quotes or messages and things like that, right? Who puts those together, and how do you guys come up with those?
We do. We do. The Thrive team, they are such creative people on that team. We, Cindy Whitney has a TV show, and she does things that promote Thrive and happy living in the community. And the Video Club puts together things. And Mark Rabinovich is the one who does the messages and that go along the trailer on the bottom of the screen. And we write articles in the Globe, and I know that you've seen articles in The Breeze. In fact, we need to have another one coming up probably in the next
We'll get
Breeze.
on that.
I was talking about that with the publisher and said, I thought we need to do that pretty quickly.
Now, you guys had some themes that you've worked on from last year. Some of them were kindness projects and reconnect and those kinds of things. When you have a focus on a theme, what do you try to do with that theme? Do you try to get speakers? Do you try to put the messaging out there? You try to just get people to connect on those levels?
In all of the above. You said the Kindness Project, and that one we did about 3 years ago. It was before the pandemic.
Oh, okay.
But we're not letting go of kindness because that's how we can reach out every day and touch people. So that's a part of it. And then Reconnect was last year because we're coming out of the pandemic, and how do we get out of the house and into new things or comfortable things again outside of our home? So this year we are doing new beginnings, embracing change, and we focus on mindfulness and positively addressing change. And here's a trick to that.
Okay. I'm all for tricks.
I'm an educator. My profession was being an educator. And in the research, change is a process, not an event. And I was talking about that with some of the Thrive team members yesterday, and one of them said, but lots of times you have to have an event that precipitates the change.
Right, and an inciting incident that says, hey, there's time, I think they need to change here.
Yeah, or this has happened to you. I mean, I mean a bad thing, like you're
a heart
in
attack or an accident or someone passes that's close to you and you say, okay, I have to make some changes.
Exactly, here. So what are you going to do? So we know that's life. And then I'm not sure, I have no research on this, but I know a lot of different changes happen in this chapter of our lives. And so what we're wanting to do is helping people to be mindful of that, and how do you embrace change positively? How do you move through the losses, the necessary losses in this chapter in our lives, and anything that Thrive can do to help with that, we want to.
Let's take a step back for just a second, though. Let's talk about mindfulness in general. When people hear that term, what should they be thinking of, and what is someone doing when they are being mindful?
Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm turning my next page.
Oh, that's okay.
One of the things is to be mindful of your position in space, when you're walking, what you're doing. Are you rushing to go somewhere? Falling is one of the most difficult things, and people get seriously hurt in this chapter of our lives. So if you practice mindfulness, it would help in that arena. And then there's the mindfulness of change, and what am I doing with that change? I lost my husband in November, and every year I choose a word for the whole year, and when you lose a loved one, you kind of just don't want to get out there. You want to stay home and
right.
And
Which is a natural time in terms of the mourning process and all those things. But you can't stay there.
You can't stay there. So my word for this year for me is engage, which works with what Thrive had already chosen.
Terrific.
I'm going to engage. I'm going to come and do the spot on TV. I'm going to do stuff with my grandchildren. All of the things,
right.
All the things we can do here in Laguna Woods.
Yeah, and I think, like you mentioned, when people get to a certain age, they're not, they don't have as many new things coming into their life as they are saying goodbye to things. The kids don't visit as much. They've moved out. You've lost a loved one in your life, and you're saying goodbye to, and even abilities to be able to do activities you used to enjoy so much. I don't jog like I used to. I don't ski anymore. So it's a time where you're pruning back, and it can be a challenge to have someone say, "Well, we'll help you thrive."
Right, right. But you can. There's so many new things in Laguna Woods. People embrace you in the multitude, 250 clubs here, and the activities and the groups that will be there to help you. The foundation will be there.
Right.
There's so many ways that you can say, okay, I am going to try something new here. I will do something.
And the thing is about maybe the Scrabble club or the theater club or whatever, the music club isn't 100% for you, but what I've gotten from all of those clubs is the most important thing about it isn't the thing they're doing, it's the community they build around each other.
That is so well said, thank you. Yeah, that's great, that's great. And in the community, the groups that we're working with Village Television and the Media Club, Recreation is great with us, the Camera Club. Now, Saddleback Memorial has asked us to join with us, and that was last year was the first time, and now they're totally a part of our Thrive team.
Right.
And the thing about the Thrive team is we have no money. We're not a fundraising, we have no money, but Memorial Care can fund some things that we can think
Right, you can sponsor, you can be part of in those events.
and have an event. So.
Yeah. You guys have a thing coming up in April, right?
Yes,
with them?
yes, and I can't say what it is now. I mean, people are probably going to say, well, maybe it'll be another ice cream event, and people
Right,
come.
they had the ice cream social recently.
Yes,
And I'm sure that was a great kind of community.
That was a big one, and the ice cream truck came, and we had a pie event. So we'll see what's going to happen in April, but it will be something that will be wonderful. And then in conjunction with that, with joining with yet another group, Memorial Care, we're putting together a TV program, and we did one, I think it was in October, but anyway, so Cindy Whitney and the team here will be going to the garden center and interviewing people in the garden center about nutrition, and then someone from Memorial Care and the other half of the program will be there, a nutritionist, talking about nutrition in this chapter of our lives.
Right.
So,
and our needs for nutrition and exercise definitely change over time too. So the things you did when you were in your 20s and 30s may not be the right things, or you just can't do them anymore. So again, with that mindfulness of where am I at in life, what do I need, what are the things that are missing, that's a great approach to have, right?
But you have to do something.
You have to do something.
Yeah. Changes the process.
So for folks who want to know a little bit more about Thrive, they can go to thriveinthevillage.wordpress.com or thriveinthevillage@gmail.com if you want to send a note to somebody there at Thrive. Thank you so much, Beth Perrick from Thrive. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Can I just say one little last thing?
Absolutely.
Okay. The little last thing is I just recently got this email from a girlfriend from my childhood, and it was all about, it just really hit me. This is the title of it, It Just Really Hit Me. And it's about how easy it is to reach out to others. And so I just want to read you. So don't wait to be kind. Don't wait for someone else to be kind first. Don't wait for better circumstances for someone to change. Just be kind. Just a smile would do it. It would make somebody's day really easily. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Beth. That's a great way for us to close. I'm glad we got that one in.
Thank you.
Beth from Thrive, thank you so much for joining us. You're watching This Day. We'll be right back.
Mary Ann Bamberger writes, "When I first walked into the sewing room, I was shown such kindness and patience. I'm now part of the sewing room staff. It's awe-inspiring that Judy Yen comes into the sewing room 5 days a week to sew quilts for various charities. Her time and kindness is truly a beautiful thing."
Welcome back to This Day. Let's take a look at today's movie presentation here on Channel 6. Today's movie is Just Mercy, starring Michael B. Jordan, and is being brought to you by Saddleback Memorial Care. And this movie explores the work of young defense attorney Brian Stevenson, who represents poor people on death row in the South, featured in his work with Walter McMillan, who had been wrongfully convicted of the murder of a young woman. The film is based on Stevenson's 2014 memoir, in which he explored his journey to making his life's work the defense of African American prisoners. And now let's take a look at some announcements we have for you today. Just so you know, over at the Florence Sylvester Senior Center every Monday at 1 p.m., beginners are welcome to come learn how to play the ukulele. This class is free. You can bring your own ukulele, or they do have a couple that can be borrowed. And also coming up on Monday Movies at the Pack, coming up Monday, February 12th, is Sliding Doors, starring Gwyneth Paltrow. Showings are at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. This is a free event, so come enjoy the camaraderie and the movie. And now let's take a look outside at the weather. It is, we'll see a little bit of sun today, no rain for today, but there is going to be plenty of clouds as well. Another storm is expected to arrive, and it's going to bring some flooding rain late Sunday into Monday. On Monday, the rain really hits and it'll be pouring down, so stay dry and be careful out there. Coming up on Monday, on this day, the Theater Guild joins us, and also the African American Heritage Club, so that'll be a great show coming your way on Monday. That's it for us today. I hope you all have a wonderful, enjoyable weekend. For This Day, I'm Bobby Higgins. I'm headed up to Palm Springs right after this to see my kids' cheer competition this weekend, so I'm hoping that I don't hit a lot of traffic. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next week.